makes me feel like the WNBA and the players may be headed towards some kind of lockout/strike. I thought there would be some optimism. I mean, the owners have offered 4 times the amount of salary that they were previously making. You got the Supermax contracts, a raise in salary cap, a bigger revenue share.
That's not optimism. That's a front row seat to a disaster waiting to happen. What Paige Bueckers just described should send chills down every WNBA fan's spine. While everyone's been celebrating record crowds, TV ratings, and shiny new sponsorships, behind the scenes, the players and owners are locked in a brutal standoff, and it's spiraling fast. They blew through the October 31st deadline. Then they missed November 30th, too. Now, January 9th is the next big one. But Paige Bueckers just told the Dallas Morning News those deadlines will probably keep getting extended. Translation? Nobody's blinking, nobody's giving in. And that means the 2026 season, the most anticipated year in WNBA history, might actually be at risk. And here's the crazy part. This shouldn't even be a crisis.
CBA was on October 31. Once it became clear that this deadline would not be reached, the deadline was extended to November 30th. While there is some seemingly optimistic reports about the most recent CBA proposals the league had offered the players, the two sides didn't come to a deal before that November 30 deadline. As a result, a third deadline of January 9 has been agreed to. A few major problems will arise if a ratified CBA is not agreed upon by January 9th. For one, the league is already behind schedule given the Golden State Valkyries expansion draft took place on December 6, 2024. Of course, it is currently December 9th, 2025. There are 2 expansion teams, the Tempo and the Portland Fire.
The league came to the table offering players 4 times their old salaries, Supermax contracts, bigger revenue splits, a complete overhaul of the pay structure. Stuff that would have sounded like fantasy just a few seasons ago. But apparently it's still not enough. Insiders say the union wants even more control and the owners are drawing the line. And those deadlines Paige mentioned, they're not some random dates. The Golden State Valkyries already held their expansion draft back on December 6th, 2024, more than a year ago. Meanwhile, 2 more teams, the Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo, are still waiting. They can't even plan their rosters until this new CBA is locked in. Here's the chain reaction nobody's talking about. No CBA means no free agency. No free agency means no roster moves. No rosters, no season. It's that simple. The whole thing could come crashing down like a line of dominoes, and Paige just basically confirmed they're wobbling right now. And what she told the Dallas Morning News on December 9th says it all. Quote, "We can do things off the court. We can bring more visibility and eyes. We're in the national media, on commercials, doing large sponsorship deals with brands like Nike and Gatorade that have national, even global visibility. We're more than just WNBA players, and I think we want to get compensated as such." That's not just a statement, that's a warning shot. It sounds reasonable at first. Yeah, these players bring serious off-court value, no question about that. They've built brands, landed sponsorships, and turned into cultural icons. But here's the harsh truth. What good are all those Nike and Gatorade deals if nobody's watching because there's no season to promote them? A commercial doesn't mean much when the product, the league itself, goes dark. Sponsorship value only exists when there's visibility. And you know what kills visibility faster than anything? A lockout. Fans check out, networks cut back coverage, and all that hard-earned momentum just vanishes. But there's something even deeper hiding under what Paige Bueckers said when she claimed, "We're more than just WNBA players." She's technically right, but the real power at that negotiating table doesn't come from her Instagram followers or Breanna Stewart's Nike deal. It comes from one name, and everyone in that room knows it. Caitlin Clark. She is the leverage. She's the engine driving this entire economic boom. The new media deals, $260 million per year, up from $60 million, are built almost entirely on her influence. The packed arenas, the sold-out merch, the spike in ratings, all Clark. That's why the league's negotiating position is hanging by a thread right now, because that thread is just one superstar. When Clark went down with that injury, the numbers didn't just slip, they collapsed. Don't let the PR spin fool you. Some outlets tried to soften the blow with talk about minor dips and sustainable growth, but the actual data told a brutal story. Ratings plunged 51% once fans realized she'd be out long term.
Sound optimistic about how the negotiations are going thus far, where they might be headed in the future. Wow. I mean, all this momentum, and look, They started losing momentum when Caitlin Clark got hurt. Much to the chagrin of Time Magazine. Oh, 5% up, 6% up. No, there's just a new way of judging the ratings now. That's all. When we found out Caitlin Clark was absent and going to stay absent, 51%. Boom, gone. Viewership. All of a sudden, these ticket prices that were $100 a seat, $4 a seat, $5 a seat, $8 a seat. You know, I mean, the owners have to be sitting back going,
not 5%, 51. Ticket prices that hit $100 a seat during Clark's games dropped to $4, $5, maybe $8 when she wasn't on the floor. That's not a small shift. That's a financial earthquake. The market didn't whisper. It screamed. Owners saw those numbers, and now they're sitting across from players demanding pay raises based on visibility that one injury nearly erased overnight. That's why this whole standoff feels like a gamble with loaded dice. And here's the uncomfortable math nobody wants to face. The WNBA has never turned a profit. Not once. In 28 years. Last year, the New York Post reported a $40 million loss, and for 2024, silence. No official report. Which probably means the numbers aren't any better. The players might be winning the cultural battle, but financially, the league's walking a tightrope, and there's no safety net underneath. And that silence, it speaks volumes. If the WNBA actually turned a profit in 2024, with all that Caitlin Clark energy fueling it, you'd be seeing headlines everywhere. The league would be blasting it on every social platform, every sports show, every press release. WNBA finally profitable. The players' union would be quoting it in every interview, using it as proof they deserve more money. But we're not seeing that anywhere, are we? That tells you something big. It means one of two things. Either the league still lost money despite record-breaking attendance and sold-out arenas, or they made such a tiny profit that revealing it would weaken the players' negotiating stance. Think about that. The most successful season in WNBA history, fueled by the biggest star the league has ever had, and they might still not be in the black. Now, the players are walking away from a deal that would have quadrupled their salaries, all before the league's even proven it can sustain profit. That's a bold move. And a dangerous one. Sure, the new media rights deal changes the math. Jumping from $60 million to $260 million per year is huge. It gives the league, for the first time, a real shot at profitability. But let's be real about what that looks like. If the WNBA was losing around $40 million a year, and they just brought in an extra $200 million in TV money, that doesn't suddenly mean a $200 million payday. After you factor in expansion costs, higher player salaries, marketing budgets, travel expenses, and operational costs for 2 new teams, you're looking at maybe 10, 20, possibly $30 million in profit. That's good money, sure, but it's not pay everyone like NBA stars money. And that's what makes this whole standoff so confusing. The players have momentum, leverage, and a superstar in Clark who's done the impossible. She made the WNBA a daily topic of national conversation. The smart play would be to take the massive raise, secure that bigger revenue split, and circle back in 2 or 3 years once the profits are consistent.
We can bring more visibility and eyes, Bueckers said. Quote, we're in the national media, on commercials, and do large sponsorship deals with brands like Nike, Gatorade, and stuff that has national, even global visibility. We're more than just WNBA players, and I think we want to get compensated as such, Bueckers said, referring to the players' efforts for increased salaries as part of a new CBA. That's great, but who the hell's going to see Nike and Gatorade ads if there's no games to show them during? I mean, jeez. And look, let's be real. There's one player that can draw eyes. I mean, away from maybe 2. I mean, at this point, Paige will throw Sophie in there. She was the most Googled women's athlete in the country.
Instead, they're pushing demands that could wreck the very system keeping the league alive. It's like they're trying to cash in before the goose even lays the golden egg. And if they're not careful, they might kill it before it hatches. Listen to what he said about momentum. All that momentum Caitlin Clark created, and they're about to throw it away. Those aren't the dramatic words of someone hyping things up. That's the voice of a person who's seen the WNBA shoot itself in the foot again and again for almost 3 decades and can see the pattern repeating right in front of them. The league finally broke through, finally got the media attention it's been begging for, finally has networks fighting to air games, arenas packed wall to wall, and merch selling out like concert tickets. And now, right when the WNBA's got real heat, they're risking it all over contract demands the league's finances can't even sustain yet. It's madness. Paige Bueckers herself said it. These deadlines will probably continue to keep getting extended. That's not some clever negotiating bluff. That's a confession that both sides are stuck. Nobody's backing down, nobody's compromising, and with every single day that passes without a new CBA, the 2026 season slips further out of reach. Here's what makes this whole thing so painful to watch. The owners aren't even asking players to take a cut. They're not saying settle for less. They're literally offering 4 times the old pay scale. Supermax contracts that could make top players millionaires just from WNBA salaries. Not even counting the endorsement checks from Nike, Gatorade, or State Farm. On top of that, they're offering a larger slice of league revenue. That's a massive step forward. And still, look, it's not enough. Now, to be fair, the players do have a point. They've been underpaid for decades, no doubt about it. They've watched NBA players earn hundreds of times more while they grind through back-to-back seasons overseas.
And I'm sure the owners are sitting back, and they are fully lucid and aware of that. Now, the NBA owners, the NBA commissioner, some of the WNBA leadership, sometimes I'm not there. I don't know that they actually understand that or appreciate that. I wonder. I mean, because they're part of the clique that didn't want her in the league to begin with. There's things as WNBA players and the WNBA, the NBPA, that we're standing firm on. I think that's why the extensions are happening and the conversations are continuing to keep going past the deadlines. These deadlines will probably continue to keep getting extended. So she's telling you, like, that next deadline?
Just to make ends meet. They've dealt with cramped travel, poor accommodations, and a league office that often acted like their complaints were just noise. Those frustrations are valid. But there's a difference between fighting for fairness and demanding something that the system simply can't support yet. What's fair in theory doesn't always match what's financially possible in reality. Because as much as people want to believe otherwise, the WNBA still isn't the NBA. Not in profit, not in revenue, and not in scale. And if they don't find a middle ground fast, all that momentum Clark built, the biggest surge the league's ever had, could vanish just as quickly as it came. The WNBA doesn't have 50 years of stacked wealth, billion-dollar TV legacies, or a global infrastructure like the NBA. It doesn't have decades of financial stability or corporate backing that can cushion mistakes. What it does have is one incredible breakout season, powered mostly by one superstar, and a fresh TV deal that might finally make the numbers work. That's it. So the logical path forward should be crystal clear. Take the quadrupled salaries on the table, lock in that bigger revenue split, and prove the league can stand tall without using Caitlin Clark as a financial crutch. Build a model that works, even when she's not on the court. Then, 2 or 3 years down the line, come back with receipts, real profits, solid growth, and hard data. That's how you negotiate from power. Imagine it. Multiple seasons of revenue reports showing black ink instead of red. A proven business model that doesn't depend on one player's spotlight. New expansion cities like Portland and Toronto packed with fans, building loyalty and pushing the league's reach further than ever. That's how you lock in long-term success. But right now, the players are gambling everything that the owners will flinch first. They're betting that the networks won't dare pull their $260 million per year deal, even if there's no 2026 season. They're assuming that fans will stick around through a lockout, that enthusiasm will survive months of silence and come roaring back when games finally resume. But that's a massive gamble, and history shows most fans don't wait around. Meanwhile, the owners are doing their own math. They're looking at a league that's never made money, not once in nearly 3 decades. They're staring at TV contracts.
We don't have the profit report, that splash report that came out like last year from the New York Post that said the WNBA lost $40 million in 2024. We've yet to see that. I believe that's calculated. And I'm sure the Players Union probably doesn't want that report to come out. If they still did not turn a profit, the Players Union don't want that out, because then that makes them look terrible for not taking the 4 times the salary increase. Wow. They are legitimately going to take this momentum that they've got, they're riding in the car, and they're going to ride that car right into a brick wall. Right into a bridge embankment.
Built entirely on Caitlin Clark's star power and hoping she stays healthy. They've got expansion teams like the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo waiting for rosters they can't even assemble yet. Free agency is supposed to kick off in 6 weeks, and without a CBA, that's dead in the water. And here's the kicker. These owners just offered the players a deal that would make them the highest paid women's team athletes in history, and the players said no. So at some point, the owners have to be thinking, if quadrupling their money isn't enough before the league's profitable, what happens when we are profitable? That's the nightmare scenario. A league finally on the edge of financial stability, getting pulled back down by its own success. So what happens next? Do the demands quadruple again the next time the deal's up? Does every round of negotiations turn into another full-blown crisis? That's exactly what the networks are asking right now. Amazon, ESPN, and every other broadcast partner didn't drop $260 million a year for a league that might not even play. They paid for a product with specific ratings targets, advertising commitments, and scheduled airtime. And if those expectations aren't met because there's no season, those contracts kick in hard. There are clauses, performance guarantees, ad refunds, and penalty payments, all designed to protect the networks. If the league can't deliver, it has to pay back millions. And those repayments could easily erase years of the new TV revenue. That's not just a setback, that's a financial disaster waiting to explode. And here's the nightmare scenario. The networks have options. If the 2026 season gets canceled or even seriously delayed, Amazon and ESPN won't sit around twiddling their thumbs. They'll fill those time slots with something else. Other women's sports, international leagues, maybe even NCAA content. Once they pivot and build new shows or partnerships around the WNBA's absence, they might decide they don't need the WNBA anymore. That's not fear-mongering. That's literally how the media business works. You get one shot to deliver what you promised. Miss it, and the next contract reflects that failure. In lower bids, less airtime, and reduced exposure, the networks move on fast, and when they do, it's brutal trying to win them back. Paige Bueckers was right about one thing. WNBA players absolutely have value beyond the court, but that value only exists because of the league's visibility. Nike doesn't hand out million-dollar endorsements just because someone can hoop. They do it because those players represent a watched league, a marketable product, a story the world's tuned into. Gatorade doesn't cut checks for athletes playing in empty arenas. They want faces on screens, highlights on TikTok, and jerseys selling out. The truth is simple. The off-court power Paige talked about depends entirely on the on-court.
2 years from now, 3 years from now, look, the league is going to start making... I do see comments where people are like, well, the league's not going to make a profit anyway. No, provided these players don't get too greedy, they will make a profit now because of the new media rights deal. All right? When you're going from, $60 million a year to $260 million a year for TV, you're going to start getting a profit. But how much of a profit? 10 million? Well, that's not a lot. 20 million? I wouldn't exactly call that. Until you start seeing 100 or 200 or 300 million in profit, I mean, honestly, be realistic. Tell me what you think. Wow. All right.
Platform staying alive. Without the league, that whole ecosystem, the sponsorships, media buzz, and fan engagement, collapses like a house of cards. And the clock is ticking. The 2026 season is only 6 months away. Training camps should kick off in April. Free agency should already be heating up in February. And the expansion drafts for Portland and Toronto, they should have happened months ago. Every single day without a CBA pushes those dates further back, makes scheduling a nightmare, and adds chaos to the one season that was supposed to cement the WNBA's future. If they don't figure it out soon, the league might lose more than a season. It could lose its seat at the table entirely. And for what? Seriously? What's the end game here? The players keep holding out, trying to force the owners to agree to demands the numbers can't possibly support. And then what? The league bleeds money again. The owners get fed up, fold expansion teams before they even launch, and the networks trigger their performance clauses to slash future payments. It's a disaster waiting to happen, and everyone in the room knows it. There's no version of this story where both sides stay stubborn and it magically ends well. The only reason most insiders still expect a deal to get done is because the stakes are too high. Both sides have way too much to lose. Players, owners, networks, even the fans. But the fact that we've even reached this point, missed deadlines, endless extensions, and Paige Bueckers herself openly admitting that more extensions are coming, tells you exactly how broken this negotiation has become. This isn't about minor details or small perks anymore. This is a deep, fundamental clash between what players believe they deserve and what the league can actually afford. And closing that gap, that's not something that happens overnight. So where does that leave the fans? Stuck waiting, hoping someone in that boardroom wakes up and realizes what they're about to waste, hoping that cooler heads take over before the WNBA throws away the biggest momentum boost it's ever had. Because make no mistake, everything Caitlin Clark built, all the hype, all the growth, all the new attention from media giants, it's on the line right now. If this thing collapses, if the 2026 season gets canceled or even delayed, the fallout will be brutal. The networks will get cold feet, the sponsors will vanish, the fans, the ones who finally started caring, will move on, and all that progress, all that hard-fought momentum gone just like that. And honestly, that would be the most WNBA thing ever. To finally reach the top, only to stumble right back down because of money fights and bad timing. So what do you think happens next? Do the players finally back down and take the deal? Do the owners cave and risk the league's future? Or are we really headed toward a lockout that could kill the WNBA's best shot at long-term success? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is about to get very real, very fast. And hey, if you want more deep dives that actually break down what's happening behind the headlines, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you in the next one.